Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Stash Project. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to go ahead and comment, because I had a few people reach out in the past few days after I'd filmed this, what you're about to watch. You will also see me pop up here in the editing desk from the future about midway through the video to cover something. But up front, because they said a couple people did reach out, we are going to be at NNL East in the Wayne Police Athletic League out in Jersey come this weekend. So that is a Saturday show for anybody who somehow lives under a rock and didn't realize that was taking place after 2 years of COVID and 1 year of a decision they probably in the end regret not having it last year. They are indeed bringing it back, and I think they've booked the hall out through 2027, so pending other global blood plagues, we should have this going on for a few more years anyway. But so I know that is making or breaking people's reservations. I've just as many people fleeing to cancel their hotels as there are rushing to make bookings now that they know I shall be in attendance. But all jokes aside, I said a few people have reached out on Facebook and Instagram saying, would I be coming or whatnot? And yes, we will be there for all better or worse, with a shave and a haircut to go along with it, since we're just sort of rolling through the middle of spring here in transportation land, where I don't have much going on, so just being Grizzly Adams and slacking off on the shaving stuff. So look forward to seeing everybody in Jersey and enjoy the April compilation. Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. This is our April 2023 compilation video. If you're new to the channel, first of all, welcome. Hope you enjoy your stay. Second of all, if you haven't seen one of these before, we take a look at all of the expected kit releases for a given month. Again, this is April of 2023. A relatively short month as far as releases go. There's 16 kits we're going to talk about today. Only a few of them are American kits. Most of them are Salvino's JR kits, and then we have the usual overseas Japan fodder for you as well. So, starting out here in the United States, there is one whole release from the folks over at Round 2 this month, and it is this International Paystar 5000 dump truck for the older among us. This is originally an Erdl kit. Tooled up back in 1974. The last time this kit was reissued was 2002, so it's been 21 years since this kit was around last. It's vintage box art with the AMT in place of the Erdl, so it's like the original box art type of deal there. New decal sheet, obviously, since you can't make a decal sheet from 21 years ago work very well. 300 plus pieces in here. There's no actual, nothing done to this in terms of, new parts or anything like that. But again, it's a 21 year since we saw it last type reissue. And the truck guys, I'm sure, will be happy to have that come back out. So that is going to be available shortly at your favorite local retailer. Over at Salvino's JR, this month, as we do these are the kits that are sort of guaranteed, so to speak, to come out within the given month. Other kits may or may not come out as the month develops, goes into May, but these are the ones that for sure are going to be coming out this month. There are going to be two reissues of the 2023 Chevy Camaro kits. First up, you have the 75th anniversary edition kit. This is going to be an extremely short run kit. This was done specifically at the request of NASCAR itself. There were basically a bunch of people throughout the collector's world, plastic model kits in this case, obviously die cast and things like that, were all basically given that 75th anniversary logo and told to sort of design a 75th anniversary item. There's no sort of protocol, so it's been mentioned before that this doesn't match the cars that are at the track, which are black instead of white. But this is, again, Salvino's take on a idea request from NASCAR. And if anything else, it's a great way to get a blank white Camaro. Again, it's a short production run. It's going to be, I don't know what the exact piece count is on it, but they've said it is less than the normal piece count, which on the 2023 kits is 1,500 kits a piece. So 1,000 pieces, something 750, and NASCAR is going to claim a good chunk of them. So finding these at your hobby shop may not be something you can do. Finding them online may be the better option. Of course, the well-stocked hobby shops that carry every Salvinos thing will probably have a few of these. And again, it's not a real livery, it's not a real thing, but if you, again, want a blank white car, this is a great way to get one. These 2023 Camaro kits from this point going forwards are going to have a newly tooled hood, which will be the actual correct 2023 hood. The early Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott kits that came out in January did not have the right hoods in them. The hoods were changed after those kits were already sort of put into, into being, and so there was no time to fix the hood prior to them being released. Also, every 2023 Camaro now, much like the 2023 Mustangs and the upcoming Camrys, has a dashboard and electronic switch panel included in it as well. So the hood and the dashboard and the electronics are on one new parts runner that will be included in these kits. The other 2023 Camaro reissue is an actual race car. It is William Byron's Raptor-sponsored car from Hendrick Motorsports. This is your race winner from a couple of weeks back, so has that going for it. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to be molded in terms of colors. I've heard white. I've heard the black. I'm not sure which one it's going to be. I'm assuming it'll be white and everything will be black. In which case, it might be easier to paint some of this car than it would be to use all the decals for it, just from the aspect of getting everything to line up. White would probably make more sense in a technical way as far as the decal design goes, but then you're putting white on a black kit, and then you have to deal with possible color fade through the white. Although, with these being cartograph decals now, the whites on these colored cars are being what they call basically double strikes, where you have a double layer of white printed on a double layer of white, which basically gives you 4 layers of white on the print, and that keeps you from getting the color fade through. So yeah, it is what it is. But that's going to be out there. And then lastly, the sort of kit of the month, if you will, if you're in the club, but the vintage kit for this month is going to be this, the 1972 Chrysler Plymouth. Can't call it a Roadrunner because of licensing. And it's Richard Petty's car from the 1972 Daytona 500. A lot of people, when Salvinos do these kits, are like, oh, another Petty car, which I gotta admit, I was with them, with that crew, in terms of complaints when this all got started, but sort of being, more in tune with what these guys are doing as we've started to sort of revive this monthly show, determined or have learned that the people at Salvinos, JR, are basically contractually obligated to make one Richard Petty car kit a month, or no, a quarter, one a month, no, 4 a year, 1 a quarter, because that is what the Petty licensing agreement says. So they have to make 4 a year. They made the 77 Charger, so that's the one for the first quarter, and the 72 Roadrunner will be the next kit for the second quarter. The Roadrunners sold out pretty much as they shipped on the 1971 kits, which were just the blue cars. This is a special one-off paint job that only existed at the 1972 Daytona 500, so if you're interested in that specific, part of it, you do want to grab this kit. There will be other Roadrunners in the future, so it's not a panic situation if you don't happen to get one of these this time around, but it'll probably be 2024 before another Roadrunner is released. There are other, Richard Petty schemes that were run on the 71 and 72 Roadrunners, and again, like I said, this one's it's a special one because in other cars the red does not go onto the front fascia, and I don't believe it goes up onto the hood the way it does on this car. So like I said, this was the first vermilion red and Petty blue Richard Petty car that existed, and it was, like I said, a special one-off because after that the way the vermilion sits on the car was changed. So it's kind of an interesting little piece of history there if you are interested in those. Going overseas to Japan, we have kits from Fujimi and from Hasegawa being our basic entries this month. Over at Fujimi, bear in mind, imagine this box art because we're going to show you concept art because the box arts for aren't prepared. You have 2 race cars being released this month. First up, you have another reissue of their Nissan GTR Hakasuka era race car. This is a legitimate race car. You may recall Aoshima released this kit last year. And this is the 50th Skyline win, and it is again the tribute car. This, based on the kit that was released, that was a tribute vehicle that wasn't technically a real race car. Again, should be an actual race car. The fact of the matter is, this car doesn't exist anymore. The ones that exist now are all, it turns out, I did a little more reading into this when I saw that they were going to be reissuing it again. We'd have to talk about it a second time. You guys may recall me talking about it when I received the Aoshima kit, which I promptly sold about a month later after I actually had a chance to look through the kit and see what a relatively, basically, street car that it was. All of these kits, all of these cars, the one-to-one cars that exist, are basically rebuilt cars. They're not actual race cars. None of the original Hakasukas, at least the specific ones that they've recreated, survived to still be around. So they've basically recreated GTR race cars out of non-GTR Skylines. So it's kind of an interesting thing when you compare these, the kit to the real cars. Won't necessarily match because none of the real cars exist anymore, which doesn't necessarily absolve anyone of poorly designed modeling by any stretch of the imagination, but it is something to consider, especially when you're dealing with that Aoshima kit that was like a race car, street car combination thing. And this, of course, is the does have the actual livery on it that does do Takahashi's car from that 50th win. And again, it's a tribute to him because he passed away last year, and it is the winning car from the 1972 Fuji Grand Prix. Back again when the Grand Prix in Japan was a touring car race. The other Fujimi kit being released is this. It is a Toyota Corolla Levin. And keep in mind your Levins basically are the polycarbonate headlight. The Trunos are the ones with the flip-up headlights. And this is going to represent, if I can find my storage here, is the Advan car. And this is a JTCC car from 1986, I believe, is the year. I'm interested to see what this kit looks like when it is released, because what you're looking at is basically the promotional material for it. I know it's all in Japanese. You can't read anything from it. Basically, Fujimi, late last year, created a new chassis for their Truno and their Levins to ride on. It's called the Easy Adjust System, the EAS. And it allows the car to have all of the wheels turned independent, cambered independent, height independent, so you can pose the car in like drifts and skids and stuff like that, which is cool for like street versions of these cars. This would not necessarily be pitched in a wild angle with cambered wheels as a race car, but it is the new chassis that goes underneath of it. It seems to be the interior and the bodies are still the original like 1980s, early 90s items that they created for these kits, but it has a new chassis. So I'm interested to see what combination of parts actually arrive when this kit is released. It has the I'm trying to think of what this is, Advan team, but there's a specific team name for this, and I forgot to look it up, so now it's gonna just bug me. If I remember when I'm watching this back, I'll put a little blurb on the bottom as to whose car this really is. But decals are pretty much what every Advan car is, in the sense of having the red and black livery and it being replicated with the decals, which always gets you into that weird situation of like making your red match the red on the decal sheet. Yeah, so that's it. But this was a real race car. Again, I think it says 1986. And yeah, so again, it's another option out there. It's good to see, I guess, depending on what kind of quality kit this ends up being at the end. Fujimi, I don't know, at least producing car model kits again. There was a good point in time there in basically the back half of 2021 and more or less all of 2022 where no automotive kits were released out of Fujimi other than a couple of Suzuki Jimneys. So there's going to be more kits coming through like May and June at least. So at least they seem to be, hey, we make car models. So I'm I'll deal with what they release, I guess. And that takes us over to I said Fujimi and Hasegawa being at Aoshima has some kits this month as well. And while we're on the topic of just pretending what box art looks like, we have this RX-7, this FD3S. As I scroll again down to my labeling here, this is going to be Takahashi Ryusuke's Volume 5 Akina Confrontation Specification car. Again, no actual box art release, but I'm assuming that it'll just be a bunch of words on this picture. And this is going to have a newly tooled front bumper added to it to make it compatible, if you will, with the manga that this is from. And all the rest of the parts in here, which are an assembly parts that I don't think are necessarily things that have come in an RX-7 kit from them before, are all parts that already exist in other kits that they're sort of putting in here, pulling wheels out of something and that sort of thing. New set of decals for this specific car, because this specific kit has never been produced by Aoshima before in their initial D series, so that's a little bit new there. And then you have these two kits out of a new series that they're doing that they're calling Hawk of Works. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but that's what the literal English translation is, as you'll see on this box art. But yeah, Hawk of Works. And these are sort of a fantasy Liberty Walk kind of, kit, I guess, would be the best way to put that. So let's take a look. You have the first of them, number 1, Hawk of Works, is going to be a Cedric 330 Works. This is their venerable, I think it's a early 1980s tooling of their Nissan Cedric 330. This thing has been around for a while, and it's a very generic chassis underneath of it. I don't assume that any of those parts have changed. From looking at the literature attached to this, you get a whole bunch of obviously stylized works parts added to this kit, but I don't think any of them are actually new. I think this is a combination of parts and pieces and things out of the bin, if you will, to make this thing. What's very interesting about this from just a visual perspective is if you notice the Aoshima logo on these box arts are the old original Aoshima logo from back in the 50s to 70s, 50s to 80s. So that's kind of interesting. The second kit, number 2 in this, is the Celica, what they call LB Works, which you think, oh, Liberty Walk, LB. No, this is LB in the sense that this is a Celica liftback. It is the hatchback version of the Celica. So again, yeah, it's having a bunch of over fenders and spoilers and headlight covers and intercoolers outside of the engine compartment added to it. I think there's a race seat in here, and there's a shit handle, pardon my French, for the passenger there. But again, there's no actual new parts to this. It's just a combination of things that exist that are being crammed into this box, which will make it a bunch of parts, for no doubt. But these kits, these 1980s kits, are not that great to begin with. If you're building it for the overall looks of it, okay, it'll probably pass. But if you're building this as a tangible, building experience, yeah, it's a motorized chassis. It's very plain, very generic, and it is what it is. And if you built any 330 or Celica liftback in the past, this is what that kit is, with some extra stuff stuffed into it. Hey, whoa, hey. Me from the future here at the editing suite. So after mentioning in joke to James over Scale Model Experiment that he ought to take the parts out of those kits that we were just talking about from Aoshima and put them on the Rebel machine that he's working on, just to annoy people and do a whole American Car Bozo style, he had mentioned, oh, hey, I built one of those in the past, and I was like, wait. Internally, Aoshima says this is like a new thing, and I did not, to my discredit, research those kits' history, because, hey, I've said it was new, why isn't it new? But yeah, going back and looking at it, actually these kits were just released about 11, 12 years ago, and this will make the third reissue, so fourth issue total, third reissue of these kits in this Hawk of Works boxings that actually date back to 1982, at least for the Cedric. The other ones may be, in that, or, well, they may be. They also are in that same age range, but it'll be dependent on when those kits were released in terms of were they available prior to 1982 or were they released after 1982. To have all of the over-fenders and whatnot added to them. But yes, that kit actually does go back 40 years now. 41 years, actually. So that is why there is nothing new about it, because it is just renewing that old kit. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a conversation piece if nothing else, because an 80s Aoshima kit's kind of iffy to begin with, and this one's really iffy because all of the parts are that old. But it still is cool to see them bring back that, again, that 60s, 70s into early 80s Aoshima original logo. Kind of a cool little piece of nostalgia on the box art there. Actually, the whole box art is older. It's not the initial box art from 82, but the first reissue of it in the 90s has the same box art, and they've had the same box art since then. So a little bit of round two, if you will, selling it on the nostalgia box art. But yeah, so just wanted to update that before I put this video out. And now back to me in the past talking about stuff about more model kits. And that will take us to Hasegawa for the last 6 kits here. All of these reissues, basically decals, although a couple of these actually have new parts. So first up, over at the Rally department, we are reissuing once again the Lancia 037, this time in the 1985 Portugal Rally Test Car livery. This is a red Martini car. It's a not quite a rally car. You're going to see as the summer continues, there's a bunch of these test schemes. One was released last month on that Sabre C9. Now you're getting the Lancia 037 test pattern. I think there's another test pattern coming. I think it's next month, or it might be in this month. I've saved all these files towards the end of last month, and I haven't looked at them in a couple weeks. So enjoy as we stumble across this together. But yeah, so that's coming back out, straight reissue, just new decals. A very cool piece for me because you guys know I love this stuff. And this is the Taji Max Corolla A101 1993 Intertech race. So this is Corolla 101. This is a pretty basic kit from Hasegawa. It exists forever. I think these were tooled up in 1993 when this car was new. There's a civilian version of it. There's a whole pile of race car versions of this. And this is another addition to that pile of race cars. This is an old Team Tom's car that was run one time at the 1993 Intertech, the Fuji race at the end of the racing seasons. If you remember your lectures you received here time and time again on the Japanese Touring Car Championship Series. And yeah, I think these guys were from Indonesia or Thailand. And yeah, so this was a one-off, one-time run car. And it's great. I mean, they are seemingly very specifically avoiding certain things by making these weird one-off cars, but I will take them because, hey, they exist, and maybe we'll go back and make the actual, bigger teams that ran the whole seasons. Going along with 1993 Intertech races, you have this release, which is their newer tool, R32 GTR kit, in the Trampio Team Trampio Landmark BP oil car. Hey, it's a very familiar set of sponsors here to us folks in the States, right? It's BP. We all know what BP is, especially in the 1990s when they were in this format of logos and colors. And hey, Zippo lighters too. We all know what those are. So this is the 1993 Intertech winner, right? Same car, same races we were just talking about with that Corolla. This is, of course, the Group A car, the Division 1, the Big Mama Jamma cars. This is the last race that the Group A cars ran. 1994, if you're not familiar, but you've blanked out on the lectures in the past, 1994 is when they went to the four-door sedan format. 1993, the last year the GTRs ran. They would go over to the new Grand Touring Car series, which would become Super GT and exists to this day. This is the last car to win the last race of the dominance of the R32 Godzillas, as they were known. Not the championship car. They only won one race that year, and it was this last one. But a very cool piece of Japanese racing history nonetheless. This is, like I said, the last GTR to ever win a race in touring car series in Japan. So decals for this have existed from Studio 27 for a while. They're not bad decals by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, it's pretty cool to have this as an actual kit, where if you got the decal set and then you had to try to basically find the right kit to get the right mirrors and the right wheels and all that. Everything will be in this one box, and I believe it's molded in the yellow, so that is pretty cool. Happy to have that come out. Then we go over to this. This is going to be a kit with a new part in it. Mitsubishi Galant 2.0 double overhead cam turbo VR4 RS. Lots of letters, lots of words. Hasegawa. Every bit of that upper shadow box has to be filled with characters. So this represents a 1990 Mitsubishi Galant. In the Rally Art spec, this is the way you would buy this car to do Group N Rally. I think this would be still Group N in 1990. It might be Group A Group A at that point. But regardless of which grouping this car would actually run in as far as the spec goes, this is sort of the showroom race rally ready car that you could buy. So that's why it's got the Rally Art logos on it already. It's already got half of the Mitsubishi Rally livery already on it. And yeah, this is drive it off the lot and put a roll cage in it and off you went. This has a resin steering wheel. This car came with a leather wrap steering wheel in real life, which just seems like an odd thing to put into a race rally car, but hey, it's Mitsubishi, whatever. So that is, like I said, this car exists for a while. The civilian car, obviously the rally version of this car, but this is the first time it's been offered in this specification and has the new resin steering wheel as a result. So, last street car, because there'll be one more race car, is this reissue of their Isuzu 117 Coupe, and this is the late version, 1979. This kit has new wheels and those big mud flaps that are behind the wheels. Those are plastic parts. They're new as well. Kit wheels, plastic parts, new as well. And it's got that 1970s disco lion on the hood. I showed this to a few people, and they're all like, no, don't do that to that pretty car. But no, this is a real option that existed. This is not something they just made up in the art department after a little bit too much sake. This is a real legitimate way this car came. Obviously, you didn't have to have that god-awful screaming chicken lion thing on the hood, but it did exist. It was a real thing. And, yeah, pretty much other than that, this is the late version of the kit, which they have done already. And this is the late version. Let's say, yeah, there's the late show, the late show. This is the late version of that car with a few new parts added to it. Otherwise, it carries over pretty much as it was. And then lastly, from Hasegawa, we have this. It is a Mazda 767B in the NWB team. This is the guys that would run this car in the Trident colors. And this is the 1991 Japanese Sports Car Prototypes Championship test car. So another test car, because yes, we are legitimately running out of things, especially in the Group C offerings, that can be done with these kits that are already tooled up. New decals, and that's it. And what's really ironic is they've released this kit in its full racing livery already, so you'll be buying this to build the car as it existed before it was actually completely decaled. But if you're into that, I mean, it's there. So that's just another way to get the 767B tooling back out there on the streets. And before we go, I'm going to talk about one little bit of aftermarket. Don't do a lot of aftermarket here because that could take forever and a day if you started doing all the aftermarket things. But one comment about that. From Studio 27, in their line of carbon dress-up decal sets that they've done, is one for the Fairlady Z. The new Tamiya 2023 Nissan Z. You get this, which is pretty cool in the sense I love these dress-up carbon sets that they do compared to the carbon fiber sets they do for F1 cars and for race cars where you would use all the carbon fiber. This is a little bit more user discretion, right? You have a great big hood decal, and you've got a roof decal, and you've got trunk decals, and you can basically carbon fiber the whole top of the car, front bumper to back bumper. And it also has like a hood spear, where you could just carbon fiber the middle of the hood, and it's got some interior parts, and you've got carbon fiber for the mirrors, and you've got carbon fiber for the lower rocker accents, and for the rear diffuser accents, and for, like I said, the center console and the interior, and the A-pillars, and it's all these different little bits and pieces. You don't have to use all of it. Obviously you could, but you don't have to use all of it, which is great, because you could have parts left over for other stuff, and then, you know, carbon fiber very specific things. I am a hugely lazy person when it comes to carbon fiber. I hate making patterns. I would, this is a 2,200 yen thing, so it's 20 bucks basically. I would much rather pay 20 bucks for this thing where it's all chopped up and all I have to do is apply to the model. Granted, Studio 27's carbon fiber usually takes a little beating with some pretty heavy solvents to get it to bend, but I'd rather do that with this decal set than go through the trouble of making my own, which I know is sort of a kit assembler, not a modeler thing, but guilty as charged. I will take the easy way out pretty much every single time it's offered to me, if it saves me what I feel is things that are going to consume my time and my mojo. So anyway, guys, that wraps this one up. Now you know what you're purchasing for the month of April, and we'll see you guys on the other side.